Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Hope everybody's having a good week thus far. Today is Tuesday, February the 4th. We're, of course, going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. Um, so let's see now. Let's see. So, again, a friendly reminder if you guys can. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Um, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, so we're just a few days away. Of course, this Saturday night, Sunday morning will be, of course, we'll be springing forward an hour. So I mean, we'll lose an hour of sleep that night. But it means that starting next week we'll have we'll have the sun out for a much longer time. So you know, everything balances out, doesn't it? Let's see. Um, Let's see. So yeah, so today I had a bit of a chance to watch, of course, some of the shorts from animated shorts from February 1935. Of course, um, from Popeye, Betty Boop. Got to see Betty and Pudgy again. Of course, 1935 was more or less the year that where Betty Boop had fully made the transition from flapper to domestic character. So due in part to the Hays Code. Um, see. So of course a buddy cartoon um, from Looney Tunes. Got to see Oswald act like a hillbilly for a bit as well. Um, um, and I don't know if I'd already mentioned this, but by 1935, um, the as the Terry Tunes were being distributed by Fox Film Corporation, which had previously been known as Educational Film Exchanges. So eventually would become known as 20th Century Fox. Let's see. All right, so now we're coming up on 4 minutes here. So I guess I'll talk about what's on tap for tonight. So what we're going to be going over tonight, of course, a couple articles from MeTV Tunes. One of them is their kind of look back on Dawes Butler's career. Seeing some of the voices, being reminded of some of the voices he did during his illustrious career with Hanna-Barbera, and even before that, when Hanna-Barbera was still with MGM as well. Um, of course, he also lent his voice talents to Walter Lantz as well. A lot of people may not have known that, but because I think most people know when they hear Dawes Butler, of course, they associate him with Hanna-Barbera, particularly with Yogi Bear. But as we will see, he did not just quite a few voices for Hanna-Barbera, but a few others out there as well. And then also we're going to look at Looney Tunes' answer to the Honeymooners, as we're going to look back on the history of the Honey Mousers, kind of the mice version of the Honeymooners from when they came out. And again, another friendly reminder, just as I said, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention as we go through the stuff, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Also, of course, after that, we'll be doing the wrestling wrap up, in which we'll be looking back on last night's Monday Night Raw from WWE, looking ahead to tonight's NXT as well. As of course, as WWE is now in full swing for the next 7 weeks in preparation for this year's WrestleMania coming up in late April. And then we will finish things off by taking a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. With all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started with the material at hand. So let's look at the first article here we're going to go over. This one right here from MeTV Tuesday. Came out actually yesterday. So meet the man behind Yogi Bear, Roy Jetson, Wally Gator, and more. The voice behind your favorite lions, gators, and bears. Oh my. Article published yesterday, March 3rd, 2025, by MeTV Toon staff. There's a look at some of the characters they're going to be looking at here. All right, so Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, and most of your favorite Hanna-Barbera characters wouldn't have a voice without Daws Butler. Now, mind you, that's not necessarily true. I mean, there's always, somebody could have probably eventually been found to do the voices, but Daws Butler was the one who obviously they chose. But as a child, he began to learn impressions to overcome his shyness and eventually became really good at it. So good that he was winning competitions at 18. He then began a radio career that following a brief pause to serve in the Navy in World War II, would lead to being discovered by cartoonist Tex Avery, who quickly cast Butler in several MGM cartoons, which is where he eventually met up with Joseph Barbera and William Hanna, of course. I'm going to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. I'll put some music on the interview. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. Anyways, let's get back to the article here. Feel free, of course, to comment and or ask questions. Anything here catches your attention. Over his 40-year career, Butler not only portrayed dozens of cartoon characters, but also trained several famous voice actors, including Nancy Cartwright and Bob Bergen. Bob Bergen, who I think took over for Mel Blanc at one point, I think Porky Pig, I believe. His approach to each character shows a commitment to the art of voice acting, from his celebrity impressions to working with cartoonists to create a brand new voice for a character. Let's take a look at some of Butler's most famous characters. Mr. Jinx. In a 1964 interview with the Detroit Free Press, Butler said Mr. Jinx was his favorite character to voice. Quote, because there is a drollness to him. You can do a lot of things with words. Abuse them or elongate them. It's almost like blank verse. And Jinx has more sides to his character. I'm gonna get you, you Mises! Spike. Butler first voiced Spike in 1949 in the short Love That Pup. He voiced the character in Tom and Jerry theatrical shorts until 1957. This is, of course, one of his non-Hanna-Barbera production works. This, of course, as I mentioned before, MGM was where he actually first met William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, and he was doing Spike. And Love That Pup was the one where that also featured, of course, Tyke. That was in the Tom and Jerry cartoon. Love That Pup. Merlin, the Magic Mouse, and Second Banana. Now this one, of course. Oh, actually, no. Okay, never mind. Atascadero Escondido. Throughout his career, Butler provided additional voices in many Looney Tunes shorts. But one character he originated was Merlin the Magic Mouse and his assistant, Second Banana. Yeah, because I remember this character was actually, I think this character came about during the DePatie Frailing period of Warner Brothers, like at the very end, the late 60s. The late 60s portion, just before they fully shut down. Elroy Jetson. Butler's creative approach to voice acting for younger characters, particularly Elroy, included recruiting his 4 young sons to offer feedback on how to sound more like a kid. You can read more about it here. So there's a link, but we won't go to that. He did Elroy Jetson there. Larry Fine and Curly Joe DeRita. In the new Scooby-Doo movies, Butler voiced two out of the Three Stooges, Larry and Curly. He also provided additional voices throughout the Scooby-Doo universe, occasionally filling in for Scrappy and Scooby-Doo. Who I think Scooby-Doo might have been done by Mel Blanc for the most part. Scrappy, Lenny Weinrib, I believe, was the one who did him mostly. Anyways. And again, feel free to comment or ask questions if anything here grabs your attention. Butler described his approach to Peter Potamus as a physical improv experience. Speaking with the Detroit Free Press, he said, quote, I see this big hippo with a big mouth, and I shape my mouth like his, and I talk like this. Of course, if any of you have ever seen the Peter Potamus show and seen the segment of the show that has his particular shorts in it, he was known for doing the hippo hurricane holler, where he just sucked in as much air as he could, and with this big hippo mouth, everyone, oh! And would literally blow those who were in its path, quite a distance. Was quite a hurricane that came out of his mouth. Snagglepuss. Exit stage right. Snagglepuss's voice was inspired by comedian Bert Lahr, who you may know as the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz. Butler's impersonation was so close to Lair, was so close that Lair sued to credit Butler in the commercials, so audiences wouldn't get confused and think that, for example, Lair was endorsing cereal brands. Butler also used his voice in The Funky Phantom, where he played Mudsie the ghost. Yeah. Funky Phantom, which came out in the early 70s, of course. Oh, my darling Clementine. For years, rumors swirled that Butler's inspiration for his laid-back Southern voice for Huckleberry Hound was Andy Griffin. Butler himself refuted this rumor, and instead turns out that he was inspired by his wife's neighbors in her hometown of Albemarle, Albemarle, North Carolina. Loopy Loop. Wee Wee Butler provided the outrageously exaggerated French-Canadian accent of Hanna-Barbera's do-good wolf, Loopy the Loop. The wolf who was always trying to make friends. But it's like it'd be interesting if you could pair Loopy the Loop and Casper together, right? That'd be quite a Casper the Friendly Ghost. A couple of people who just want to make friends, and yet people run scared from them because of what they are. Loopy the Loop being a wolf, and Casper, being a ghost. Might be interesting to see if the two of them had a chance to interact. Of course, we did see in the late 70s, early 80s, did see Casper interact with some Hanna-Barbera characters, of course, in Casper's First Christmas and Yogi's and Casper's First Christmas. Yeah, Casper's First Christmas was actually the one that he interacted in. The Red Max. Butler voiced many of the characters on Wacky Races, including the Red Max, a Manfred von Richthofen Red Baron style character. Butler approached the role by giving the Red Max a very slight German accent. Peter Perfect. Butler also voiced the British racer Peter Perfect in Wacky Races. Of course, Wacky Races had a number of pretty well-known, Dawes I think did some voices. Let me see. Janet Waldo, of course, provided the voice of Penelope Pitstop in the series. Paul Winchell, who would later go on to voice Gargamel, and the Smurfs would voice Dick Dastardly in the series. So, Lippy the Lion. Impersonating comedian Joey Brown, Butler voiced Lippy the Lion, and legendary actor Mel Blanc voiced Hardy Har, the hyena. So imagine that duo. Probably a legendary Hall of Fame duo right there. Dawes Butler and Mel Blanc, who worked together on a few. Mel Blanc provided, of course, the voice of Mr. Spacely in the Jetsons. Obviously opposite of Dawes, as well as Janet Waldo, Penny Singleton, and George O'Hanlon, and Gene Bender. Rock Slag. Teaming up with buddy Don Messick, Butler voiced one half of the Slag Brothers, Rock Slag. Sergeant Blas. So we get some more Wacky Races characters here. In addition to Sergeant Blas, Butler also also voiced Big Gruesome and Rufus Roughcut. So he did a number of the guys in Wacky Races. Wally Gator impersonating another comedian, this time vaudeville actor Ed Wynn. Butler voiced the swinging alligator in the swamp who actually lived in the zoo, Wally Gator. And of course, probably the one character that most people you say the name Dawes Butler, this is probably the one character that comes to mind, that first comes to mind, Yogi Bear. One of Butler's most famous roles, Yogi Bear, and one of his clear favorites, Butler described the work of voicing the bear as Yogi, for instance, has a sing-songy way of talking. There's almost a triplet in Yogi's sing-song. There's very little variation. I mean, if you guys have ever seen some of the early Yogi shorts, either when they were still part of the Huckleberry Hound cartoon in 1958 through 60, or when he got his own show in 61, you'd find a lot of rhyming coming out of him. Hey, Mr. Ranger, sir. I'm smarter than the average bear. All right, and then of course watch the House of Hanna-Barbera on MeTV Tunes, where you could hear a number of the different characters that Dawes has done. Let's see. So we're done with that article. So we'll get ready to move on to the next one, of course. Alrighty then. Then real quick. I'm just trying to see if I can draw in a few more people here, if at all possible. Alrighty then. I'll do one more quick little thing here, and then we'll get into this article. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and get to the article here. All right. So the Honey Mousers, Looney Tunes version of the Honeymooners. Why I oughta. Article published today by MeTV Tunes staff. All right. So when you hear cartoons and the Honeymooners in the same sentence, you likely think of the Flintstones. But around the same time that Hanna-Barbera was creating Fred Flintstone and Friends, the crew at Looney Tunes were creating their own attempt at the Honeymoons, the Honey Mousers. At the time, the Honeymooners was one of the biggest television hits ever, and cartoon director Robert McKimson wanted to capture the same type for Looney Tunes. He directed 3 cartoons emulating the classic sitcom. While the Flintstones was loosely inspired by the Honeymooners, set more like in the Stone Age, as it were, the Honey Mousers is very clearly a cartoon that is the Honeymooners but mice. The names of the mice are all directly pulled from the original show, along with places and catchphrases. The animation is also different from most Looney Tunes cartoons. All of the characters have brightly colored irises, and the mice are a lot more humanoid compared to other Looney Tunes mice, which tended to be cute and cuddlier. Let's go through the 3 Honey Mousers cartoons and see how similar they are to the original show. And the first one is, of course, the Honey Mousers from 1956. The first cartoon in the series is called The Honey Mousers. It premiered in December 1956, just a few months after the last episode of The Honeymooners aired. The main character is named Ralph Crumden, a pun on Ralph Cramden. Crumden, because mice eat crumbs, obviously. He even says, quote, "Why I oughta," and pow, right to the kisser. Ralph's wife is named Alice Crumden. Another pun name, but based on the leading lady of the Honeymooners. Ralph and Alice are running low on food because the people moved out of the house. Let's see. Their friend, Ned Morton, comes over to tell them about new people moving in, and they quickly realize that the new people have a cat. Ned Morton is a play on the Honeymooners character, Ed Norton, who is classically played. Let's see if I can try to remember. Well, we know Jackie Gleason was, of course, Ralph Cramden. Ned, I think that was Art Carney, I believe, who was Ned Norton in the main series, if I remember correctly. Let's see. After several foiled attempts to steal food from the kitchen, Alice delivers a pow right to the cat's kisser. The cat runs away, and the mice ransack the kitchen. Look at that. Look at that scene, folks. Got the little lady mouse there, Alice Crumden, and the cat. The cat looks like he wants to just eat her in one bite. All right, Cheese It, the cat, 1957. Cheese It, the cat, is the next cartoon in the Honey Mouser series. Ralph tries to plan a surprise party for Alice, but can't get past the cat to get the cupcake in the fridge. Something worth noting about the unnamed cat of the Honey Mousers is that these cats aren't bumbling around like Tom from Tom and Jerry or Sylvester like Looney Tunes. They are a lot more vicious and violent in their pursuit of the Honey Mousers. With Ned's help, Ralph gets the cupcake into the mouse hole, but as they surprise Alice, Ned mistakenly puts dynamite, in parentheses, or tiny fireworks, on the cupcake says candles. Oh boy. Classic cartoon trope right there. That's dynamite. That's dynamite. The thing. Let's see. Let's see. Playing hot potato with an explosive cupcake, they throw it into the cat's mouth and close the door. As it blows the cat onto the ceiling. Happy birthday, Alice! Imagine that, getting a cat blown to the ceiling as your birthday present, as your surprise. That's funny. Mice Follies, 1960. So only about a year went between the first and second cartoon, and then they go 3 years till the next one. The last and weirdest Honey Mouser's cartoon is Mice Follies. Ralph and Ned are returning home from a Raccoon Lodge meeting. Try to sneak in quietly so they don't wake up their wives. Another classic trope in a lot of a lot of these couple type shows of the time, cartoons and comedies. Saw friend Barney do this quite a bit too, right? Try to sneak in at times. Raccoon Lodge is also the organization that Ralph and Ed belong to in The Honeymooners. And this cartoon was clearly inspired by the episode, quote, Alice and the Blonde, unquote, where Ralph and Ed struggle with getting home late from a lodge meeting. But they were followed home by a cat who beats them up. They decide to sleep in the park instead. How that is safer, we will never know. Alice and Trixie, Ned's wife, who has the same name as her honeymooner's counterpart, also arrives home late from a night out and are also beaten up by the cat. They narrowly escape. Look at their dresses all torn up there and ravished. Yeah. Oh boy. Alice and Trixie also decide to sleep in the park, and unbeknownst to them, sleep on a bench where their husbands are sleeping on the other side, which to some can be seen as a happy ending. Hey, at least they find each other, right? Anyways, and you can watch Bugs Bunny and Friends on MeTV Tunes as well. Oh yeah, we're 34 minutes, so all right. So, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the wrestling wrap up. So of course, we're going to look at. Of course, we're gonna go back and look at last night's Monday Night Raw. Talk about some of that, as well as look ahead to tonight's NXT. Hmm. Mm. So on last night's Raw, of course, the show opened up with Gunther in a non-title match taking on Otis, as he's as Otis had last week tried to had interfered in Gunther's post-match beatdown of Akira Tozawa, his teammate in Alpha Academy, as the two of them and Maxine Dupree were trying to, as the two of them, as Tozawa and Maxine were in the corner of Otis. And Otis put up a pretty good fight, but ultimately, in the end, lost to Gunther. Gunther just proved to be too strong and powerful and too dominant for them to get by. In the first of three title matches, Lyra Valkyria defeated Ivy Nile of American Made in just over 9.5 minutes, 9 minutes, 32 seconds, in her defense of the Women's Intercontinental title. Let's see. And what proved out to be a pretty solid match in its own right. In a match for the WWE World Tag Team titles, Eric and Ivar, the War Raiders, defeated and retained the titles over American Made, the Creed brothers, Brutus and Juliet, and what showed off as a pretty good athletic contest between four big men with incredible agility and skill. All this, of course, coming off of the Elimination Chamber, and in the main event saw the WWE Women's World Title up for grabs in the main event, in which Rhea Ripley defended against Io Sky. Io Sky was able to get the win, partly due to a confrontation that Ripley had at ringside with Bianca Belair, who was there to watch the match. Supposedly, I guess Rhea got distracted by the fact that Bianca had been cheering on Io Sky, and now, at least as of right now, unless things change, which there has been some talk that it might be. Right now, it was initially going to be Rhea Ripley defending the Women's World Title WrestleMania against Bianca Belair, which a lot of people have been talking about that singles match being a dream match. But Io Sky was once again able to beat Rhea Ripley. Io Sky is probably one of the few superstars that Rhea Ripley has yet to figure out. In each of their two previous matches prior to last night, Sky had also gained the victory. So Sky remains undefeated against Rhea Ripley. The three of them came up together through NXT and all that a few years ago, and now they're all top stars. Now there's been some talk that they may be gearing up for a possible triple threat match between the three, of course, now Io Sky defending the belt against both Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. Now, in a triple threat match, of course, the champion doesn't necessarily have to be beat, does not have to necessarily take the pin in order to lose the title. Now, most of the time, when it's one-on-one, usually the champion has the advantage because usually the title cannot change hands on a DQ or a countout. But in a triple threat match, those rules are generally thrown out the window, and you don't have to be pinned in order to lose the title, or lose the match. So now some other happenings that also happened, of course, CM Punk came out and did a promo basically blasting The Rock and John Cena for what they did to Cody at Saturday's Elimination Chamber. which eventually led to a confrontation with Seth Rollins, which the two of them were brawling all the way to the back. Um, you know, there's also been some rumors that there's another possible triple threat going on there between Rollins, Punk, and possibly Roman Reigns. There's also been some talk that I guess a match scheduled for next Monday or this coming Monday, the 10th, in which Rollins and Punk will be taking each other on in a steel cage on that Monday Night Raw. And there's some talk that Roman Reigns may make his return at that point. So that's all we got from last night. So now let's look ahead to what you can look forward to on the CW tonight. As of course WWE will be having its NXT show on tonight on the CW. All right. See that, right? Of course, they're back at the Performance Center in Orlando. And of course, on tonight's show, you have WE Women's United States Champion Chelsea Green teaming with Piper Niven to take on Sol Ruca and Zarya on NXT. Jada Parker takes on Kalani Jordan. And in a match for the NXT North American Championship, Tony D'Angelo will be defending the title against Shawn Spears. That's what's going down on tonight's NXT. So now, with that being said, that's all I got for the wrestling wrap-up. So now, go ahead with today being Tuesday, March the 4th, 2025. Let's take a look back this day in Neat History. So, all right, first off, we're going to head back 75 years ago. And on this date, 75 years ago today, back in 1950, Warner Brothers would release the Looney Tunes theatrical cartoon short The Scarlet Pumpernickel on this date back in 1950. Directed by Chuck Jones and written by Michael Maltese, the cartoon was released on March 4th, 1950, and stars Daffy Duck along with a number of other prominent Looney Tunes characters. The title is a play on the 1905 novel The Scarlet Pimpernel. In 1994, it was voted number 31 in the 50 greatest cartoons of all time by members of the animation field. So, on this date, 75 years ago today, the premiere of The Scarlet Pumpernickel from Warner Brothers, Looney Tunes cartoon, premiered in theaters on this date 75 years ago today. Moving ahead now to 1955. On this date in 1955, which is, of course, 70 years ago today. This date 70 years ago today in 1955. From the Memorial Auditorium in Buffalo, New York, NWA Upstate held its card. The main event saw the Kalmakoffs, Ivan and Carol Kalmakoff, defeat Bearcat Wright and Sandor Kovac. Prince Maivia defeated Luigi Massera. Let me just check something here. Okay. So this is High Chief Peter Maiavia's cousin, Neff Maivia, who went by the name Prince Maivia here on this show. But Prince Maivia defeated Luigi Massera. John Foti defeated Chief Don Big Kettle via DQ. Lee Henning and Sammy Berg went to a draw, and then to open up the show, Chuck Molnar and Lou Pitosha also went to a draw. That happened on this date 70 years ago. NWA Upstate held a card in Buffalo, New York at the Memorial Auditorium. Anyways, now getting ready to move on to the next piece of Niche history. Moving ahead to 1995. On this date in 1995. And just give me one more second. I do need to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. But what I will do is I'll put some music on for you guys while I'm on. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Anyways, getting back to this day in each history. On this date, 30 years ago today, in 1995, let's see. Shin-El Animation released Doraemon Nobita's Diary on the Creation of the World. It premiered in Japanese theaters on this date. It was a 1995 Japanese animated science fiction drama film. It was based on the 15th volume of the same name of the Doraemon long stories. It is a 16th Doraemon film. It is based on 1973 chapter Planet Builders. Also on this date, back in 1995, 30 years ago today, Toei Animation's Dragon Ball Z Fusion Reborn was also the 12th film in the Dragon Ball Z franchise. Was also released on this date back in 1995. So let's see. So Doraemon, Nobita's Diary of the Creation of the World, and Dragon Ball Z Fusion Reborn both premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 1995, 30 years ago today. And finally, 10 years ago today, back in 2015, here, the fifth and final issue of Dark Engine from Image Comics went on sale on this date back in 2015. It sold for $350. It was 28 pages. So with all that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight. We'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow, of course. Also, this Sunday, I'll be joined by Rick Piper of Cross Comics, as we'll be going over comics that went on sale in March of 1940. May of 1940. We'll be looking at comics that went on sale from Marvel, at the time known as Timely Publications, of course. Among the stories will be, of course, including we'll be continuing going over the one of the first major crossovers, the Submariner and Human Torch crossover in Marvel Mystery Comics number 9, as well as introducing you guys to the Red Raven and the Human Top, or at least Bruce Brevel, the Human Top, as there are a few other characters by that name as well. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.